Well, greetings once again to my fellow horror fanatics. Well, the holidays are well and truly over, but winter still has quite a bit to go. Winter being very much the topic of the movie I'm going to be discussing today, Ice Queen, a 2005 straight-to-video film. I gotta be honest, I'm kind of surprised there aren't a lot more spoof reviews of this out there on YouTube. For sure, it's a really obscure movie, but I would have figured that like Brandon's cult movie reviews or Dr. Wolfula or hell, the Cinema Snob would have gotten to this by now. But really, there is not a whole lot out there about it. So in a way, I guess I'm special. Sort of like the people who made this movie. In all seriousness, this movie was directed by Neil Kinsella. That's a name that probably none of you have ever heard for good reason, because he hasn't done a whole hell of a lot of note. But it is worth pointing out he was an assistant director on the early 90s Land of the Lost TV reboot. And if you're of like my age group, that probably says all you need to know about the kind of flick this is and what you're in for. A lot of cheesy effects, a lot of cheesy costumes, a lot of... Fuck. Well, greetings once again to my fellow horror fanatics. The holidays are well and truly over, but winter has only just begun with us. And that's appropriate because the topic of this video is Ice Queen, a 2005 straight-to-video film that, I gotta be honest, I'm actually kind of surprised that there's not more, like, spoof reviews out there on YouTube. For sure, it's a very obscure movie, but I don't know, I guess I would have thought that, like, Dr. Wolfula or Brandon's cult movie reviews or, hell, even the Cinema Snob would have gotten to this by now, but really, you look for it, there's not a whole lot out there. So I guess that kind of makes me special. Kind of like the creators of this movie. In all seriousness, no, this one I think kind of got buried just because, in no small part, due to Frozen, the popularity of the whole Ice Queen trope that just took off in the 2010s, kind of piled this one completely over. But this movie, in a way, well, first and foremost, it's not good. It's not good at all. But I actually have an affection for it. I consider it one of those so bad it's good movies. And for me, it really embodies that late video store experience because that's where I first saw it, at a Blockbuster Video. There was like 2 copies of it on the new release wall. And I didn't even watch it at the time. It was just one of those that I looked at and thought, huh, that's got kind of a cool box. But I did end up seeing it quite a few years later on Sci-Fi and Chiller, when that was still a thing. And let's just say I'm glad I didn't pay for the experience. This particular flick was directed by a guy named Neil Kinsella, who you've probably never heard of for good reason, because he really has not directed a whole hell of a lot before or since. But actually it is worth pointing out that in my research I found out that he was an assistant director on the 1990s Land of the Lost reboot. Which, if you're of my age group, probably tells you all you need to know about what you're in store with this flick. A lot of cheesy costumes, a lot of cheesy effects, a lot of even cheesier acting, but still, you know, some zany kind of fun. And that's really the key thing with this movie to me, that I like it because it's just fun. You can watch it and laugh at it. You can laugh at just how bad it is. Now, I want to actually preface it by saying that actually, by far and away, the best aspect of this movie is a review that was left for it on Amazon by an anonymous writer who claims that he is the author of the original script, which was to be titled Avalanche Run. Now, according to this review, the original concept was a disaster movie about a ski resort where the arrogant, you know, yuppie out-of-towners and all the backward locals get snowed in by an avalanche and have to overcome their differences and work together to dig their way out and make it to freedom. You know, as far as disaster movies go, okay, I mean, that's kind of a concept we've seen before, but for a straight-to-video movie, that's not one you would really see a lot. But the review continues to say that at some point, one of the film's backers, during the pre-production, decided they wanted this film to have a military subplot. So the script was rewritten so that now the avalanche is caused by a military jet carrying an experimental biological weapon, a virus, crashing into a mountain, and that's what triggers the avalanche and carries the wrecked plane with it. So now these people got to dig their way out before the wreckage collapses and smashes the vials of the virus and lets it loose. Okay, that's actually not a bad twist in my opinion. You know, it adds a sense of urgency, and again, we are talking straight to video. That's pretty unique. The review finishes up, however, by saying that literally only a week or two before filming was to begin, another of the film's backers decided they wanted it to be a monster movie. So the director rewrote the script entirely without this author's knowledge, so now it became the Ice Queen. So the jet is now carrying the monster. And that claim, I gotta say, smacks of authenticity because they actually mention Avalanche Run in the film. There's a moment where there's some skiers zipping around, and one of them says something like, hey, race you to Avalanche Run. So that actually is just a marvelous, insight into the insanity of pre-production and the movie-making process. And, sometimes the movies that have the most insane production story end up being some of the best, like Jaws or RoboCop. And then you got this. So you've already got the main gist of the plot line, that the military discovers a prehistoric life form that survives in sub-zero temperatures, and they decide to whisk it away to some secret base for who knows what, probably to dissect it or clone it or make it a weapon. But it wakes up about mid-flight, kills the pilot, the plane crashes, causes an avalanche that buries over a ski resort, and now the survivors have to dig their way out while trying to avoid the Ice Queen. As far as a monster movie plot, that's actually not terrible, and in better hands, it might actually have been decent. But this film's biggest weakness is actually not the effects. Because, and no disrespect to the author of that Amazon review, its biggest drag has got to be the characters themselves. Between the writing and the acting, it comes across almost like a low-rent porno. All of our main cast come across as just totally unlikable assholes. Not that I know anything about low-rent pornos. And moving on. I will say that Amy Corlton, or I think that's how her name is pronounced, Corlton, who plays the Ice Queen, she's the undisputed MVP. She just manages to chew the scenery for every second she's on camera, even without the use of dialogue. And she really was corning it up with her body language. And I get the impression that despite the heavy prosthetic makeup, she was actually having some fun with it. And there's a particular moment that I get the impression was totally improvised, probably by her, where the Ice Queen is rooting around in this ski resort's kitchen, grabs a tub of what I guess is supposed to be mayonnaise or sour cream or something, and proceeds to smear it all over herself. Yeah, no sexual innuendo there. But I suppose you can't expect much quality when it comes to all the characterization. I mean, we are talking about a film that has dialogue like it's Showdown in Bitchtown. To get on to the obvious this film, the monster effects are decent, I mean, for the kind of budget they must have been working with, the Ice Queen looks pretty good. But by far and away, the most noteworthy thing has to be the avalanche itself, where it looks like they just poured a bag of confectioner's sugar, or probably even the cocaine the cast was snorting, over a set that is very clearly train set miniatures. And there is a particularly bad green screen effect that I absolutely love, where the well-intended ski lodge owner digs his way out and is meandering around the wreckage of his town, and he's got a white aura around him, like he had just turned Super Saiyan. Did I say I love this movie? With low effects, it can either add or it can subtract. In this case, I feel that the bad effects just add, It's so absurd that you can't help but enjoy it. As for the rest of our cast, like I said, they come across as total assholes. Particularly our main character, our hero. We're supposed to cheerlead for this guy. We're supposed to want him to come out in the end. But how can you, when right off the bat he cheats on his girlfriend and steals her money? And you could use that as a redemption arc, He finds himself, becomes a hero, and redeems himself to her. But for one thing, he never really acts all that remorseful for what he did, just for that he got caught. And he doesn't even really act like a hero. He just bumbles his ass from one bad situation to the next. So I don't know how they expected you to empathize with this guy. But nonetheless, the Ice Queen wants to fuck him on sight, of course. Which kind of leads into my one little complaint about the ending here. It's very anticlimactic, but the movie does have the sheer temerity to try to sequel tease, which of course there was not a sequel, because throughout we have our generic mad scientist who is enamored of the Ice Queen, thinks it's the discovery of the century, and wants to study it. And at the very end, they set it up like he has got some of the Ice Queen's DNA and is going to clone it. The scientist was played by a guy named Daniel Hall, who, again, you've probably never heard of him. In my own research, I just could not find anything of note outside of this that he's done. But he probably ranks as number two to our Ice Queen in terms of who's the best of the cast. With the rest of them, I get the impression of a lot of really bad actors doing their best, which just is not very much. With him, I get the impression of a at least maybe passable character actor who is totally aware of what kind of flick he's in and is just totally rolling with the punch and hamming it up as much as he can. So, as far as this movie goes, I'm going to tell you that I would not recommend it for, an urgent must-see. It certainly wasn't for me after I saw it at Blockbuster. But, if you've got a couple hours to kill, such as when you're snowed in like this, and you're willing to pay the rental fee from Amazon, because I definitely wouldn't recommend buying it, and I have not found it on any streaming services, then you know what? You could kill the time in worse ways. So, much like the Ice Queen now, I must go dig my way back into the tunnel to make it back to my frozen lair, because it is cold out there. I want to congratulate Mr. Meathook, a collaborator of mine and friend, for the success he's enjoying with his channel, and also give a shout out to the Homicidal Homemaker, Homicidal Casey, as we may know her, for the message that she made for Diana Darcy Prince of Joe Bob Brady's Last Drive-In. She had been feeling pretty down, so Casey wanted to cheer her up and asked me to take part. I was honored. It was a lot of fun. And as always, folks, I'm going to urge you, please, look out for each other. There's still so much yet to go. Wear your gloves, wear your mask, wash your hands, cough in your elbow. Just be polite and look out for each other. As always, eat, drink, and be scary, and I'll see you next time.